Hey YouTube, I just got finished watching a video called something like, "Are we watching the death of capitalism?" And it's from a channel I don't usually follow, and it was pretty pessimistic in many ways. I don't really want to talk about the video in particular, but at the end of it, he said, "I think it's going to get worse before it gets better." And that, I think, is a good sentiment to talk about, because I don't think we realize how deeply that reflects our metaphysical beliefs. And the next videos I have coming out are from a podcast on evil, the nature of evil, good and evil, the question of evil, the problem of evil. And I think most of those will speak for themselves in their titles and whatnot. But this question of goodness in life, goodness in the future, evil in the present, is very revealing, I think. And so, this channel that I was watching, from his turns of phrases, the people he takes pot shots at, like, he's left leaning. And a lot of what you see in the left wing at this stage is really, if any commitments to religion, then they're very watered down. They're very secularized, and they have a very negative assessment of society, of individual interactions. Generally speaking, just a broad brush. Not saying that necessarily applies to absolutely everybody. It's a dog visiting. Dogs are good, right? We can agree on that, left and right. But this phrase, "it's going to get worse before it gets better." My immediate thought was, what makes you think it's going to get better? Like, the video was very dystopian, very negative. Where does the assessment that it's going to get better come from? And I don't mean that to be alarmist or whatever, but the idea that things are going to get better is not an obvious given. In just, like, if you take a supposedly neutral philosophical look, like, that's not a neutral standpoint. Where is this conviction coming from that things are going to get better? And this, I think this shows our continual, like, most people, at least in Western society, most people's continual metaphysical assumption, underlying belief, is in the goodness of God. Why do we think that things are going to get better? Why do we believe in progress? Because we believe that good conquers evil. We believe in good purpose. We believe in essentially a destiny towards goodness. I don't think there's a way to justify that from a secular point of view. If you get it, if you really just believe that we are random agglomerations of cells that are governed by just sort of the best case scenario of consciousness that came out, that is just good enough for survival, how do you attach that to, and the future is going to be better than now? How do you attach that to progress towards something that's called goodness? I don't think it works if you get into it rigorously. We get away with it. We get away with not thinking about it because, well, it's because we naturally believe. And it's like, well, I mean, of course, goodness, right? Like, who's going to argue against goodness? But where does your belief in goodness come from? And no, I think it boils down to the fact that we believe goodness is sovereign over evil. Goodness is victorious. Goodness reigns. Goodness is not defeated by evil. Evil is defeated by goodness. That is our almost unanimous, unless you've been really, really milled and ironed out by modern secularism and anti-religious sentiments. I mean, even then, as I talk about in the podcast and my book, like, you still believe in good purpose. Everybody always believes in good purpose. You actually cannot escape it. The worst case scenario, you just believe that your belief in good purpose is an aberration and you're like a broken being and you get depressed and angry about it. But it doesn't change the fact that you inherently believe in good purpose. But anyhow, in goodness in general, and the destined goodness of life, and that eventually the future will be better. Like, this is driven by our metaphysical belief. This is driven by our religion. Like, we believe in the goodness of life. We believe in the victory of goodness. Why? Because we're Christian, because our values are shaped by Christianity. And I had this a version of this realization a few years ago as well, when the second Top Gun movie, Maverick, came out. The end of that movie, really good movie all the way through, and they could have ended it with the death of Tom Cruise. It would have still been a good movie. It would have been sad, but sadness is okay, and that this good movie can still be a sad movie. And there's sadness in the original Top Gun, so it would have been coherent with the franchise. But they had, against all odds, Tom Cruise survive. Why do we accept that? Why do we accept essentially the Disneyfication of our stories? Why do we accept the happy ending? I mean, throughout human history, in ancient times, the stories were brutal. Like, by and large, they were not happy endings. And we even know this in like the original versions of fairy tales. Those are some dark stories, right? Why do we accept the brightness now? Why do we accept the happy ending? The hope. Where does that hope and happiness and look towards goodness come from? Why didn't it break the whole, why didn't it ruin the Top Gun story for Maverick? Oh, that's not realistic. He wouldn't have survived. I think this was just intuitively clear to me at the time. The reason why we accepted Maverick's survival is because we believe Jesus resurrected from the dead. That's the trope. It's the hero resurrects from the dead. We accept that in all of our movies, every level of childish movie up through adult movie, we accept that trope because we believe in subconsciously in most cases, or in many cases, but we believe in the sovereignty of goodness over even death. And we believe that the heroic individual overcomes death. That's our belief. And so it's interesting to see it reflected in this modern economic analysis with like Marxist tinges, but things are going to get better eventually. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they? Because we have this metaphysical assumption that goodness conquers evil. And this individualist assumption was even there too. At the end, he said, he had really short advice. He's like, well, you know what? We can all try to make more conscious decisions and try to order our own lives in an appropriate way, essentially, based on this information. The whole video was about this terrible, like, behind the scenes, overarching dystopian takeover of billionaires and AI and all this stuff, which I think is true to a great degree. Why do we just accept that, like, the individual has any power against that? You know, like when Gandalf says, it's the little things, the everyday good deeds that hold evil at bay. How do we accept that? Why does that intuitively ring true to us? Because we believe in God, because we believe in the significance of each individual. And that is something that is endowed through our metaphysical beliefs about good and evil, about the nature of life, about the sanctity of the individual life. It's against collectivism and against a view of the sovereignty of evil. That's all pure Christianity at its basis. And so, in a way, ironically, that alone sort of turned the whole video for me and gave me a lot of hope. And I hope that's what my videos coming up this week on the problem of evil will be geared towards. It's about confronting that problem. Like, why is evil here? And even contending against the modern relativism. Oh, well, there's not really evil, that just kind of something we think things suck, but is it really evil, or are we just sort of in a messed up world and that's all there is to it? So the videos go into that, and I think are important, but especially the final videos, ending on that note of what is our metaphysical orientation, and it's towards the sovereignty of goodness. So I hope that rings true for a lot of people. I hope people can draw on that on all sides and realize that, well, that is our assumption, and maybe reflect on why we have that assumption that we do, and realize that that's where all of our hope is bound up in. If we don't have that, there is no reason to hope. But hope is one of the deepest parts of our nature. I mean, you can't kill hope without killing the human being. So unless you're prepared to give up hope, you believe in the Christian doctrine. I don't like that's where it's founded, and that's where it comes to a head, and that's where it ends. So go with God, live in hope, and yeah, let's have more hope in the world. Thanks. Oh, please take a look at the videos. Stay tuned for the ones coming up. Take a look through the old videos. There's a lot of content up there now, and check out the titles, see what's interesting. Just poke around on the channel, and leave likes, leave comments, and subscribe. Thanks a lot.